Welcome back to Talking Tactics here on DR Sports with me and Matisse. Lots to go into. Don't think either of us are particularly happy, not just for on-field issues, for off-field issues as well. We are going to explore a little bit of that, as well as Manchester City's back three formation. This isn't three at the back with wing-backs. This was something a little bit new, a little bit interesting, which we're going to talk about. Will it work against Arsenal as well? Leicester smashed Tottenham 4-1. James Maddison at the heart of everything good at Leicester at the moment. We're going to explore that as well and talk about Chelsea and their struggles and Graham Potter. I need to see a little bit more from him, and I'm going to have a little bit of a moan about him. Why would I care? I'm an Arsenal fan. Find out a little bit later in the show. Let's get into it, Matisse. Hello, welcome.
Pleasure to be back again. Lots to talk about. Definitely don't have any issues in terms of talking points today.
No, we don't. We don't have any issues in terms of technology. We know what we're here to do.
Does this work?
This works. Yeah. It draws lines.
Oh, really?
We know what we can and can't do in the studio.
And have you checked everything that you've done? Because sometimes we don't check.
Seamless.
Okay.
But everything, the text, we're all good.
Oh.
We're all good. I've checked everything I have to check as well.
Yeah.
I know what games we're on.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my job.
And if you didn't do your job, there'd be consequences probably, wouldn't
Well, yeah. I mean, if I sat here and I analysed, Man United versus Liverpool, I probably wouldn't be on next week's Talking Tactics.
I mean, the comments would definitely let you know, wouldn't
they? They would let me know.
You're not allowed to speak actually always on the decisions.
That's true.
You get fined for that.
Absolutely. But I don't know why we went off on that tangent.
Anyway.
Let's go into the football. Manchester City. Let's just do it. Manchester City, they beat Villa 3-1. That was a good response after the defeat at Tottenham. The fact that Arsenal dropped points again, gave them another opening.
Yeah.
It's just so beautifully poised. But you know what, I'm going ahead. Let's not touch on that yet. Everything off field with the investigation, the breaches.
Galvanises them potentially. That's what it should be. That's what Pep should be doing here. If you've got a situation like that where the world is against you, I've seen prime Jose Mourinho use this before with Chelsea. You use that to your advantage and you galvanise everyone. He's spoken about the lack of atmosphere in the fans, in the crowd. He's spoken about the players' motivation. You've killed two birds with one stone with this whole allegation situation, because now the players' motivation, the world is against you, and the fans, everybody hates you. Speak up, talk. So I watched this game, and this is the first time I've been impressed with Man City for weeks. I wasn't impressed in some other wins, but this one I actually was, because they played well. They actually played really well. Now, obviously, Aston Villa defensively, we've seen last weekend against Leicester, this weekend, most weekends defensively, from an individual and collective standpoint, they're really poor. Konza was not good. Mings last week was not good. It doesn't matter who you chop and change at the moment, that defence sometimes doesn't really do the business.
Well, it's not the most convincing back four, is it, with all due respect?
I think Emery's come in to try and, he's tried to make them solid, but there's still some bozo genes in there, unfortunately, that he's going to, in the transfer market, I think, weasel out. Ashley Young was sleeping on Gundogan's goal at the back post. I thought Matty Cash might play. I don't know what the situation is there. But with Manchester City, they stuck with the back three. There was nobody inverting, moving. It was very solid, clear back three. Now, for me, two players to highlight that are key here is Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva was used in build-up play really, really well in this match. And there was times where I even seen him in centre-back areas in terms of like chasing runners and things. He was really very deep. And Gundogan, his off-the-ball movement and his third-man runs were just spectacular. This is such a versatile player. I'm so impressed with him. I think he's very underrated. He doesn't really get spoken about enough. He could play as a deep line playmaker, box to box. He could play as a false nine. He's done that at Anfield in previous seasons when they've had injuries. He plays as a 10. The amount of runs he was making off the ball, it was just so difficult for Villa to handle, because they had to watch Haaland, but then they also had to watch Gundogan's runs as well. He had a few chances. And De Bruyne was just picking them out for fun. He was on his A game. So it was just a much better City performance in terms of, it wasn't overly narrow in terms of, lack of movement, lack of off-the-ball runners. They had runners, they had great passing, they had a bit of everything. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because Villa, like I said, defensively were not great.
There were kind of two ways that Guardiola could solve some of the issues they had in terms of how static and inflexible they looked in the final third. One of them, sign players with pace to play out on the wings and give yourself that sort of out to win runner. But the other is just to actually get runners around your front three, and Gundogan and Haaland do that. Gundogan and De Bruyne do that. But also, what he did here was see how, this is Arsenal's shape. This is Arsenal's shape all season. Only it would be Zinchenko here coming in from left back, and then what you've actually got is the midfield three made up of those players. But he kind of went, look, let's forget the fancy sort of, this is the formation on paper, but actually it looks like this. He fully just went for Yeah, no, it's a back three.
Yeah.
It's a back three. And we're not going to have wing backs because I'm not really worried about it. I'm expected to have the ball, so I want to get my best technicians in the right places on the pitch.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And you've got the width of Grealish and Mahrez, that's fine. But you're right, you've kind of got... We know De Bruyne is a superb passer of the ball, but he's also a very good runner. His underlaps are superb. He likes to get tight to Haaland. And in Rodri and Bernardo Silva, you've almost got like sort of perfect distribution range.
Yeah.
You know, you've got two that can sit. Bernardo's actually played a lot closer to Rodri all season anyway. And then you've got your runners in Gundogan and De Bruyne. And I just thought, I saw that 11 go out and I thought, that's so really nicely balanced. I know people will go, but you don't have any, you know, Walker's playing as centre-back, you've got no full-backs on the pitch. Grealish and Mahrez aren't ones you expect them to, but it doesn't matter. They've got so much of the ball that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it slightly worries me that they stumbled across this just before Wednesday night.
But I think as well, this is the first time that I've seen anybody I think he tried to use Alvarez in this position over the last couple of games. He used Alvarez in this like kind of Gundogan role, but the difference is with Gundogan is he's actually a midfielder, so he can do everything that you need him to do on the ball, in those half spaces, chance creation, passing wise, etc., which maybe Alvarez isn't a midfielder, so he's not going to have all of that package. But at the same time, he's got the intelligence to make those runs off the ball, to be that third man runner, and for the second goal, Haaland, for the Gundogan goal, Haaland is basically a decoy, and he ends up obviously making that run, stumbling upon an opportunity to make an assist with some defensive errors, and then he slides it across and Gundogan's at the back post. So he was giving us a little bit of Sterling, and he was giving us a little bit of Foden earlier on in the season, making those runs and capitalising off of Haaland's presence. And that was really good to see. And then when De Bruyne's on it, that makes a big difference. And he was actually sometimes getting frustrated with Haaland because he was creating chances and Haaland was just a step off the pace and wasn't quite there ready to receive it with cutbacks and stuff. But De Bruyne really was up for this game. And I would also say Diaz brought massive difference to the back line. The leadership was there. He just brought that presence. And again, Walker, they've missed him a lot this season as well. He's maybe getting up to speed as well after the injuries before the World Cup. So that back three was really balanced.
Well, not long ago it was Rico Lewis right back with Ake and Akanji.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's not a bad back, you know, but it's I mean that's another level of presence as well.
Exactly.
And culture on the ball in Walker, Diaz and Laporte.
The only reason why they conceded was a lapse of concentration. They gave the ball away cheaply. They didn't keep possession well enough in the second half in that moment. And then Watkins stumbles across the opportunity to score. But yeah, they could have won that 3-0 if they'd remained concentrated.
You're so right to talk about Gundogan and Bernardo because you're probably looking at them and going, well, you know, Gundogan, you're so right, he's so versatile. So normally he would sit alongside Rodri, but you're right. He looked at the distributors and he looked at the runners. And there you got Bernardo Silva. He's highlighted because that was his heat map. Gundogan, slightly more central, as you said, a little bit closer and offering different options. Does this work, though, against Arsenal? Because look how high Mahrez and Grealish are. I know Arsenal aren't in their best form. We're actually not even going to talk about Arsenal today because, you know, they're all right second half, you know, first half poor and you know, VAR and all that. But, you know, is that a little too open? Or do you think there's enough there to deal with Saka Mate? Do you think he would approach it this way if it were Arsenal?
It's tough because the only template we've seen to stop Arsenal is that 4-5-1 or that 4-1-4-1 and that physicality, which is what Everton have shown, Brentford have shown. Man City are not going to give us that. Man City are not going to do that. They're not going to sit back like Manchester United and kind of counter-attack at Old Trafford. They're not going to... I mean, Man United in the first half at the Emirates, distance covered was ridiculous and then it couldn't be sustained second half. So Man City are not going to adopt any of those methods. So this is the first time we're seeing them in terms of their two fully strength teams. We saw them in the Cup. I think in that game you can say Arsenal competed. They played very well, but they made a lot of changes. So it's like, can we read too much into it when we know that Arsenal are going to then go and play their strongest team? Probably not too much. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions going into this game of tactically what are both of them thinking. And I don't know if it can work purely because the opposition is of a much higher standard. The technical quality in between these areas, Bernardo, say defensively now, we're asking you, can you handle Odegaard the same way Newcastle did at the Emirates? Are you going to man mark him? Are you going to mark him out of the game? Is Bernardo capable of doing that? No, probably not. Did he have to do that against Aston Villa? No. So it's like the tables have turned, you know. Laporte, does he want to get out into the wide areas with Saka? Is he going to go touch tight? Because Saka's been a player that you've had to kind of man mark as well and deal with. Who are Arsenal even going to start? You know, is Martinelli, is it going to be Trossard? So there's a lot of questions. People are saying that maybe Tierney could have come in to give a bit of width. What's Arteta going to do? Is he going to stick with the team, two games in a row with no win? So there's a lot variables that are at play here, because Arsenal have not won in their last 2, and Man City have been struggling up until this last match.
I wasn't planning on doing this, but I just quickly chucked on the Arsenal 11 there to sort of compare what the shapes might look like from the 3-2-5s and all that. And you're right, it's very risky for either team, because let me put it this way, I trust Saka and Martinelli to actually drop back and help out, or let's say Arsenal to transition into that back 4 and try and deal with what, you could do. Arsenal could mix up in a lot of different ways. I could see Arsenal doing a few different things to try and deal with Man City when they get on the front foot.
Yeah.
But if this game becomes very open and is a little bit more end-to-end, and sort of both teams are having their moments, then Man City, trying to speak with a neutral head here, that's worrying for City, because, I mean, Laporte on Saka and Walker and Martinelli, they can do the one-on-one defending.
There's gaps.
So many gaps. So what, does Bernardo fill in? Does Rodri fill in? Is that the way they're going to try and address that? I think there's a very good chance that we see this man come in. Have I even got him? No, I haven't. Ake. Let me add him.
Ake goes in at left back, and Laporte goes alongside Diaz in the back 4. Is that what you're thinking?
I think so. But who comes out? Who comes out the midfield? I think Bernardo Silva, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. So it depends on how they want to set up. If they're going to go with more possession, I think, but we've already spoken about it. Gundogan can do either. He can keep the ball if you need him to. He can make the third man runs if you need him to. He can contribute in the final third. I think that midfield gives you a lot of options in terms of Gundogan, brilliant in the first phase, brilliant in the second phase, brilliant in the third phase. Bernardo's had a little bit of a tough season. Obviously, mentally, that's what the question's always been. Big games, are you up for it, etc. Obviously, Pep, I think, will maybe lean a little bit more to Gundogan than he would to Bernardo.
You know what it is? This isn't, these lineups here are kind of what I think Arsenal and Man City could retreat to. Draw is in the underworld for either team.
Yeah.
So I could see Xhaka tucking into Partey a little bit closer and giving him more protection. I could see Odegaard getting closer to Nketiah and just trying to see if there's something in transition they can do, find Saka or Martinelli in behind. And I could see Pep Guardiola going, you know what? Away at the Emirates, let's just get Gundogan instead of Bernardo Silva, because he offers that little bit more defensive awareness. So it's a really fascinating one. Let me ask you some quick questions. Who's gonna come out with the most possession in this game?
That's tough. I think you're looking at very even split, 55-45 either way, something like that. I think they're both going to have spells. They're both going to have spells. Both of them want the ball, but they can't. I don't think they're going to keep the ball for the entirety. I think it's going to go in spells.
I think City will have more of the ball.
Do you?
I think City will try and be calm and get into their flow. But I think Arteta will be okay with that, because I think he'll recognise the opportunities for Eddie, for Martinelli transition. And Saka for transition.
Home to United, similar type of thing with the transitions.
I don't think he'll purposely set out, but I think he'll say, look, don't need to blow him away in the first. I'd love to see the Emirates roaring. Arsenal,
because you haven't won
City.
in 2 games, could he then say, no, we do need to blow them away in the first few minutes and get the confidence up?
Maybe.
Because the longer the game goes on, after you haven't won 2, are there going to be question marks, there going to be doubts? It's a big opportunity.
Well, then let me ask you, who needs the win more?
I think you guys, because you guys have not won in 2, and this is your first time in this position. Man City desperately need this, don't get me wrong, but they have the game at the Etihad to come back on. The points gap could be massive by then, but they've been here before. So mentality-wise, I don't expect them to hit rock bottom if they lose, but I do think it gives you a massive psychological edge if you win this game and you extend the gap. Whereas if you lose, especially when you've still got to go to Etihad and they now, again, psychologically, they go ahead of you in the table. I know you have a game in hand, but on goal difference, that could be a little bit, and especially after what's happened against Brentford with the referee and whatnot, I think that could hurt. I think
you're spot on. I think mathematically, City need it more for sure, but psychologically, Arsenal need it more. I think if City lose, they've got the Champions League to worry about. They'll just try and keep plug away at it in the Premier League. If they draw, they'll go cool, plenty of time. Yeah. But if they win, they'll go, we're above you in the table now.
Their wins,
you might have the game in hand, but we're above you now.
And then they play you again at home. Yeah. And I think the home atmosphere is being questioned, but that home atmosphere against Arsenal and Arteta will be rocking. I have no doubt.
A win for Arsenal would cement it in their minds. We can actually do this. Really finely poised. Not a lot to say on Villa. They had a great run. They've now conceded 7 in their last 2, but I'm sure Emery will tighten things up as Arsenal travel there on the weekend. So we will see. Let's talk Leicester, and I'm going to talk much more about Leicester than the Tottenham side of this, because look, to have the run they had and then beat Man City and then lose this way to Leicester, it's disgraceful
Spurs,
for Tottenham.
It's what it is.
It's classic Tottenham.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give credit to Leicester here, because I was looking at their starting 11s. They lost at Forest, they drew at home to Brighton. They had some results they'd be disappointed in. Tete and Maddison not in the team, and you said it off air. You said they are the difference makers. What do you mean by that?
Well, Maddison speaks for himself. Statistically, for the last couple of years, he's always been up there. There's a reason why people were calling for him to be in the England squad. Unfortunately, he was then injured and couldn't play a part. But this player is the difference maker at Leicester. It's not Tielemans, it's not this, it's Maddison. He is a cut above the rest. He's a class act. And if he didn't have the injury, he's who I would have been calling for Newcastle to go and get in January, because I think it would have taken him to another level in that 3-man midfield. Especially if Bruno Guimaraes was available. I mean, I think that would be mouthwatering. But his statistics speak for himself. It speaks for itself. He's a quality player. He has the vision, he has the creativity, he has the goals, he has the set pieces. He's got a bit of everything. So him being back in the team, and over the turn of the year, he was obviously out, still coming back from the injury. Him being back in the team is crucial, because his quality is undeniable at the moment. His
numbers are just fantastic. 189 appearances, 54 goals, 37 assists. In the Premier League 21-22 season, he notched 20 goals and assists. He's already on course for 14 goals and assists, despite the injury and the time he's missed out for this season as well. I think he's a superb player. I think his output is it's immense, and he's actually a little bit of a kind of an old school 10. You know, he actually plays behind. You see that goal that Iheanacho sort of rolls it in from. Odegaard is technically our creator in central midfield, but he's not a 10 because he's drifting right, Xhaka's drifting left. Here it's much more of a balanced Dewsbury Hall box to box, Mendy more of a sitter, what a goal by the way, and Maddison. But then they've added Tete as well. I think the other thing is that they've actually got 2 centre backs. And for so long it was Amate who was just slotting in there, and Soyuncu, who knows what's going on there. But these are 2 new signings, so they're having to get used to each other, Sutar and Fass. But you know, don't get me wrong, they've still been conceding loads of set piece goals.
I'm not sure about all of that back there. Ward, let's see how that.
Still messy.
This is nice. I like the forward line. Iheanacho, his goals to minutes ratio has always been strong. Scored 2, I believe. Could have had a hat trick in the week before against Villa. Was it?
Scored against
Villa.
I can't remember.
Was it against Villa?
He definitely scored against Villa. I can't remember how many.
There was.
As did Tete.
I believe it was Villa that were gifting goals on a plate for Iheanacho last week.
A few,
Harvey Barnes has always been a solid option on the left. He can go both ways, you know, and he gives something as well. And Tete's added to the team as well. I didn't know too much about him until he joined them, but he looks like a good player. Mendy they signed a while ago. Same with Soumare, but he's now in the team. Scored an incredible goal. Wonderful strike. And Dewsbury Hall is a good player as well. So I think that front forward, you know, group of players is strong. The back line, question marks. We'll have to see how that goes. I don't know these new players so well from the purchases, and I watched FaZe against Liverpool and I was very annoyed. So let's see, you know, but I don't think he's been like that the whole season. But Leicester fans will tell me a lot more. They've watched their team obviously every week.
Well, there's something about Brendan Rodgers, isn't there, that actually you stick with him. You know, and loads of people said he should have been gone, but you know, there's a good manager in there. Sometimes you need to let them get through the teething issues, and they need to just get through. Okay, we've hit a stumbling block. Why is that? What's going on? And he's played with a few different things. He's played James Maddison on the right before his injury. He's played Tielemans in the 10, although I think he was injured for this one. I can't remember. But you know, he's tried Vardy up front to try and reignite someone, you know, who has a history of scoring goals in this team. And look, it's a very different Leicester to the one we saw just 2 years ago, actually chasing for a place in the Champions League. But they need a little bit of a refresh. And while we don't know whether these players, I highlight them in yellow, are the answer, Sutar, Fass, Dewsbury Hall, Tete, for example, Christensen, you know, I don't know if they're the answer, but at least they're different. At least it's something else.
It's a new motivation. We spoke about it with Leicester. I think the only reason why we would have said for Rodgers to leave is because he's not. I don't think he's going to eclipse what he's done. He's won an FA Cup and he's been on the cusp of Champions League qualification. Now with Newcastle etc. coming into the frame, unless they get a takeover, it's going to be very difficult for them to ever get back to that part of the table in terms of competing. So I think he's done more than what he can do. So he's exhausted his resources, and obviously we know that they are going for a refresh, and he will not be there long. Maddison will.
So where do you think he ends up?
Top 6 team, top 7 team. He has to be going in that direction.
I think Arsenal need him. I know a lot of people go, what? You got Odegaard, Vieira, you got Smith Rowe coming back. Really, you need cover for Partey. But I just look back at that Man City 2017 to 19 team of Fernandinho, David Silva, De Bruyne,
depth as well. Yeah.
Madison, Partey, Odegaard. I'd love.
Do you know
him.
who needs him more?
Who?
Newcastle. I've said I think would do a great job with him, but Tottenham obviously. But with Conte, with Conte in charge, he won't be interested in any sort of central attacking midfielder. But when he probably leaves at the end of the season, so Tottenham definitely come into the conversation. Also Manchester United. Manchester United with Maddison in a Ten Hag system.
I know.
Eriksen's getting older. Bruno Fernandes is he's a 10, but he's not a Maddison. He's a different type of 10.
Yeah.
And he can also play. He's been playing off the right sometimes as well. So he's shown a little bit of positional versatility.
Yeah.
For Portugal, he's playing off the right as well.
Yeah.
And we know, the right side now with De Bruyne and all of these cross spammers now on this right hand side, it could work for him. But Maddison is a true 10, and I think at Manchester United, if you used to build a Casemiro, get a deep line playmaker or someone alongside him, maybe it's Sabitzer, who knows, next to Casemiro if they form a partnership, and a Maddison in the 10.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're looking all right. Tottenham, I just can't really be bothered because... Sorry, but what were some of those goals, man? I mean, Dyer, just get close here, Nacho, just enforce it.
I have nothing to say that I have not already said. I'm not going to waste your time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste production's time. You see this? They have conceded the most goals in the top 10. This solidarity that they're meant to have under Conte.
2 holding midfielders and a back 5.
They play 2 holding midfielders. They play a back 5 with wing backs, right? They're meant to have defensive solidarity, and they don't have it. They've conceded the most goals. They're constantly making individual collective errors. There's nothing to say on this team that I've not already said. The only thing I will say is that is a huge miss is Bentancur for the ACL injury. He's been their best midfielder. He's the one that I would trust in the first phase. He's the one that can make something happen. He's the most technical out of everybody with Højbjerg and Basuma and Skip and Sarr. So he's a massive miss.
From goals.
Yeah, huge. You saw the difference when he came in against Man City,
pieces,
and then now he's back out. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, Pedro Porro, apparently it wasn't the greatest game, but I'm sure he'll level up. I mean, it's the first game.
Apparently Tim Sherwood wasn't impressed.
I'm not going to read too much into Pedro Porro in his first game, to be fair to him.
Fair enough. Let's talk about Chelsea. We skipped them last week.
Here we go.
Do you know what I saw? See that Enzo ball to Felix?
Yes. Chance creation.
That is what money buys you.
Yes.
That is Enzo just going, I've got a great pass on me, and Felix going, I've got great movement and finish. Shall we do it? Yeah, all right.
Yep.
That's what that was.
Forget everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm here to... I've got some things about Graham Potter, which I'll go in on, but, I don't credit Potter with them pulling that out of nowhere.
No, it's nothing systematic about that.
Yeah, exactly. But I saw this team, and I thought, okay, that's...
Strong as hell.
He's going for it.
Yeah.
He's got goal scorers in that front too. Goal scorers is putting it politely. But Felix looked brilliant. Mudryk, Madueke, you've got 2
wingers,
inside forwards as well.
Yeah.
But what's he trying to do as a Chelsea fan? What are you watching that makes you go, give him more time, give him more this summer, it's going to come together?
I think it's a situation where we have to separate the run out, because people will look at the 11, 12, 13 games and they'll say we've got 2 wins or whatever have you will, and they'll just say it's not good enough, this is Chelsea. And I agree with that, it's not good enough. But when you're flipping a team in a window like January, you've got to break that up.
Yeah, okay? It's like a new set.
It's a new team now. So this is going to take time for us to see the plan, to see the chemistry. These players have not played more than 180 minutes individually. That was Felix's first 90. That was his first game with Enzo. They connected. Great. Mudryk, that was his first start. He
did not connect with Cucurella.
Sorry, his second start. He didn't connect with Cucurella. Cucurella is not playing great at the moment. Chilwell, when he comes on, immediately he made an impact. I think the substitution to take Mudryk and Cucurella at the same time was a big blunder from Graham Potter, because you kind of looked at Mudryk and you thought, right, he's not having a great game because he's not getting the ball. You know, he hasn't got any dribbles completed. There's no key passes. But the one time he did get the ball, which was an offside for Kai, he had a lovely reverse ball, and it was a hair offside, fine margins. If it's not VAR, maybe, and again, we speak about VAR, you know, you give the benefit of the doubt to attacker. That was created by him. For the goal, he was the one that won the ball back. So he's involved when he gets the ball. When he gets the ball, Mudryk looks good. But that's not what the stats show us because he's not getting the ball enough. And when you look at the pass map, the line from Cucurella to Mudryk is very thin. It's a thin red line. The build-up play is lopsided. I've seen it for weeks. When Reece James is in there, and he's a bit rusty, and we'll get to him for the goal, but it's very lopsided in terms of build-up play. Cucurella's not progressing the ball like he used to. I don't mind now, I would prefer that he overlaps and underlaps like Chilwell because it would create a double-up effect and Mudryk would have more time on the ball. But if it's in an instruction to be like a Zinchenko, more inverted, more stationary, because of transitions, we don't have a natural DM in this double pivot, then fine. But you still, when you receive the ball, you need to progress it. So I'm not sure what's going on with him personally. Potentially he needs to come out of the team for Chilwell if the minutes are being clocked up and he's ready to go. But I haven't got a big issue or worry about Mudryk at the moment. Felix was the epicenter of this whole performance in the first half. He was everywhere. He's finding the runners. He's picking up the ball in the half spaces. He's just a quality footballer. And I'm seeing reports today that George Mendes and Bowie have got a good relationship. They actually might try and build the team around him. And I think that's a fantastic thing to hear because this is another real creator. He's a real creative player. He's got solutions in tight spaces. He can nutmeg someone, go past someone with a bit of skill. He's got the vision and the application to then play that pass. And he's shown he can chip in with a goal. I think a lot of people have judged him off of Simeone's system, which is completely the opposite of any progressive attacking team. And I think he suffered for it. But his hype at Benfica shows for me that he's a talent. So I'm really looking forward to him continuing. Enzo, like I said, you know, he's a very good player. Loftus-Cheek complimented him quite well, I felt, in that game. He did a good job despite not being the perfect player to go alongside him long term. But Chelsea, again, they weren't able to sustain their performance throughout the game. Good first half, didn't capitalise because you weren't leading, switched off with the goal. There's 4 players that you could maybe blame for the goal.
Yeah, Cucurella got a lot of heat, but
Cucurella got a lot of heat, but I feel like he's an easy scapegoat at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give Cucurella his criticism for what he's doing wrong, but I don't think this goal is solely on him. It's just not.
No.
Mudryk, you could see, should have maybe got back faster. I think Cucurella is trying to mark a space because there is
he's trying to defend this area here,
because
isn't he?
if he comes out, there is a reverse ball that could be played behind him, and then there's a problem. So I think he's just trying to be a bit cautious with the space. I'm not saying that he's completely blameless, but I don't think that it's all on him. Mudryk, for me, should get back faster. And on the other side, it's between James and Madueke, who is going to pick up Emerson, the wing back coming in off the left. Now, I would like Madueke to be tracking back. He's got to be doing that. He's young. He's going to learn. But James as well, you've got to be switched on. You've got to see that danger. So it's also
a good goal from West Ham.
It's a good goal. Yeah, it's a collective.
Because Bowen's flick on is like almost impossible to defend.
Yeah, because that gives it that extra pace.
Yeah. You know, it's suddenly you think you're dealing with it, but then the ball's just been taken and literally curled around you.
Yeah.
So,
but that's for me why Emerson has to be tracked the full length because you have to prepare for that. It's like when a striker, you have a defender in front of you and a cross goes in. You see a lot of strikers, in particular Haaland earlier in the season, he's actually having the shot regardless. He's swinging for it, and if it comes to him, then great, he's already ready. If it doesn't come to him, then he's just swung at thin air. You've got to mentally kind of prepare for the worst case scenario is if there is a touch or if that player that's making a run does receive it. You don't want to see anybody at the back post like a free man. We saw for Gundogan, Ashley Young not tracking. Same situation here, no one tracking Emerson. So, but Chelsea, 3 clean sheets out of last 4. The defence has been tightened. The attack was a lot of people's problem in terms of the question marks. There's now a lot of new attackers. That's going to take time to establish that chemistry. So I'm not happy with the results, but I'm still giving him time purely because I want no stone unturned. And I think when you hire a manager on that amount of money with that amount of backing, you have to give them more than 2 weeks after the transfer window before you sack them. That would be back-to-back managers from Chelsea after transfer windows where they would have sacked that man without even barely using the players for more than 3 games in a trot. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But I do have an issue with Graham Potter. Yeah. I really rate the manager. When you appointed him, I thought you'd found the one that at least for 3-4 years was going to...
Really?
Well, I don't know whether he was going to win titles, but I really thought he was going to make Chelsea competitive and brilliant to watch again. I felt under Tuchel, you won the Champions League, but we're talking about a league campaign. I thought you were competitive in one-off games and maybe in spells of the season, but I didn't think you were brilliant to watch. I thought Graham Potter would bring a lot of that together. But I like to sort of just dip into what other people are saying, and I'll follow your channel. But there were two things that were said that really got me thinking. One was Matt Law, and I didn't read the article, but I saw his headline where he basically said that the penalty decision late in the game, the Souček one, was Graham Potter's opportunity to go mad, and really do everything he could to try and get that decision. Take whatever fine, go crazy and fight for your team. He didn't. And then I was listening to Roy Jennings' video as well, where he basically said, he was very disappointed with Potter, but he basically said, start acting like the Chelsea manager. None of this, is all well and good being humble and all that. And I heard what he said ahead of the Dortmund game. We're a good side, but they're a good side. We must remain humble, blah, blah. And I kind of get, there's a little part of me that's like, my word, man, just
backbone.
Just get.
I hear you, and I think that is a lot of people's question, and it's why I'm not some sort of Potter.
I saw your tweet. You said you have the right to remain silent.
I had to get rid of it because I thought they were actually going to they were going to go at me.
Yeah.
Anytime he speaks and there's a quote, he is slaughtered on Twitter. So and I understand this because Chelsea are used to big personalities, Conte's, Tuchel's, Jose Mourinho's, etc. Even Carlo Ancelotti with the eyebrow. That said something without saying something. He doesn't have that. So not only does he not have the gravitational pull of the personality and the charisma, he then doesn't have the CV. So there's nothing to really invest in him solely as a person. And that's where you don't have that loyalty. Now, the only way you can get that loyalty is results, and he's not getting that either. So I get this completely. I'm not a Potter fanatic. I'm far from it. I actually didn't even know if I wanted him in the first place because I didn't even want Tuchel sacked. But what I will say with him is that his job for me is two things. Make our style of play improve, bring the average age of the team down so we can actually start building for the long term, and do the clear out. I don't need him to talk like Jose Mourinho at the moment. I don't need him to talk like Tuchel. I'm not looking for that personally. I'm looking at the pitch. I need style of play. I need improvement in terms of player development. I need some results. That's all I'm interested in. I don't watch the press conferences. If he does not get us to the point of winning Premier League titles, I want his reign to stand for something where I can say, this is what I got from him. He was the middleman. He passed the torch, and then you gave it to an elite manager. Say Pep Guardiola became available. I'm just fishing. Do you know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? And then you go again. I want his tenure to stand for something. At the moment, obviously, it doesn't stand for anything. Nothing's happened. So yeah, I think at the moment for me, I get the whole he's not speaking like a Chelsea manager, but we've kind of messed around. We're gonna find out. That's what they say on the graph, right? We don't know if he's going to be a Chelsea manager, if he's going to be able to handle the pressure, if he's going to be able to handle the personalities, if he's going to be able to, if he's going to stand up to the task, because he's unproven at this level. But we're going to find out. So
I just think he needs to. I thought that headline was so right. When that penalty, you see it, right? Because they've got monitors, so they can see. You should be going mental. You won't see a more stonewall penalty.
He's just one level
mad.
He doesn't do it.
Going mad, but he doesn't. But at the same time,
he's never angry.
He has
never happy.
Called out Brighton fans before when he was at Brighton.
But he was very firmly in the job at that point.
Well, I think he feels like he has to prove something before he can do it. But a little part of me is like, just stand there and be like, I got this. You say that there's nothing to hang your hat on, but there is a man who has had an unbelievable journey in football management, who's earned this role, who took a Brighton team to Old Trafford and won, to the Emirates and won, to Tottenham and won, who scored 2 goals in a 2-2 draw and 2-0 down at Liverpool, who has scored goals at the Etihad. He's taken Brighton team with far less resources.
Handed a torch to De Zerbi.
Right, yes, but played some of the best football we've seen in the league at times. Under Graham Potter, he's reinvented formations. That back three we saw from Guardiola and Man City, they did that first earlier in the season with Trossard and March high and wide. Like, he's been doing that. He has been so progressive and exciting as a young coach that I want him to back himself a little bit in the job and be like, I'm going to go crazy because I deserve that penalty decision. And if you're all going to be critical, I'm going to say, what do you want me to do with all these new players? Give me time. Stand up for yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would love to see it.
Because I think he's a good manager.
I would love to see it, but it just clearly doesn't seem to be him. That's his personality.
Maybe not.
He's very calm. He's very one level. He's very bland. He's very kind of, that's just him. He just doesn't give you the quotes or the lines that you're looking for. He doesn't give it to you. No. He doesn't give you the bars. He hasn't got the lyrics.
Yeah.
He's just one tune the whole way through. Now, in terms of style, I think the amount of injuries that Chelsea have had has prevented him from implementing the style as of yet. Every time that he tries to form some sort of chemistry and relationship, somebody goes against. Chelsea were basically getting 1 injury per game. Yeah. So anytime you try and put something together, somebody else leaves that and you got to put someone else in. So I'm not really baffled as to why there's no style on top of the fact that new players have come in. Everybody will say 600 million spent, but you have to go through those individuals, see the minutes accumulated by each signing. 100 million of that is basically on under 21 players, but you've got to go through the team individually, collectively. How many minutes have really been accumulated? How much of those signings are pre-Potter and how many of them are January, the Potter signings? And how many minutes have they played? Like I said, none of them have played more than 2 full 90 minutes really, apart from maybe a couple, Badiashile you could say. And then we go from there. That's how I see it.
Fair enough. We'll see what's next for Chelsea. What's next for Arsenal? We'll find out on Wednesday night, of course, when they host Manchester City in a massive game. Let's remind ourselves of the state of play. A Man City win, they go top for the first time in months, probably since game week 3 or 4 or something like that, because Arsenal have been imperious all season up until the last 2 games. But a win for them would put them 6 points ahead of Manchester City with a game in hand. That's potentially 9 when they face Sean Dyche Everton on the 1st of March, and that would be a greater lead than Arsenal have had all season. So this really swings massively with a win on either side. A draw and Man United might start licking their lips. So it gets very, very interesting. We'll follow it all on DR Sports, of course. Lots of content coming out this week. Check it all out. And hope you've enjoyed the show. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Big thanks to Matisse as always. We'll catch you on the next one.